Good afternoon, dear Paul. Thank you very much for being with us tonight. First of all, I called you because you are one of the very few good observers about the situation in Syria. You want very much the situation in Syria and in more general terms, or in the whole of the Middle East. You had a rich activity all this time, but before going into that, I would like to ask you what is going on there, because you begin to resemble a little bit your country, I mean, to West Asia, at least the Minneapolis region. What is going on? Tell us if you can, please.
Yes, it's not just the Minneapolis region. Here in the San Francisco Bay Area, where I'm located, we also have demonstrations against ICE, and there is tension between the California state government and the federal ICE immigration service, and all of this. So, but obviously the hot point is Minneapolis, Minnesota, where unfortunately the ICE officers have apparently been informed that they are not accountable to anyone except possibly the President of the United States. And certainly not to the law, because they are killing unarmed civilians just because they're in the way. And they're not allowing themselves to be identified because they're wearing face coverings and things like this. So accountability is very far from the minds of our current government in many circles. Not that it was very close to the minds previously, but now it's beyond what we're accustomed to.
Some people compare this immigration control service, how is it, I see, to a kind of paramilitary corps controlled exclusively by Trump and his friends. Even some compare it with the paramilitary forces in Nazi Germany. I don't know. Are those exaggerations, or you think we are in front of such a phenomenon?
Thus far, they are exaggerations. But of course, the Nazi regime in Germany had to begin somewhere, and with lower levels of oppression, and graduate to less and less accountability. And that's where we are now, where we're at the beginning of this phase, and it's not looking promising, but we'll see what happens.
Are there any popular resistance to all that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. There are demonstrations. They get in the face of ICE officers. And in the case of the latest killing in Minneapolis, one of these unarmed demonstrators was just shot dead with I don't know how many bullets.
I have seen the video. Yes.
Yeah.
Many people have seen the video. It's appalling.
Yeah.
But there are some commentators who are suspecting that Trump would like to provoke a revolt in Minneapolis in order to test the possibility of applying martial law. Do you think that such a thing may be in the planning?
I don't expect very much planning from Trump. He plans things and he changes his plans from day to day and hour to hour. So I don't give much credit to his planning, but he's a thug, he's a bully. And in this case, if this is an opportunity to increase his power through force, I think he would not say no. So he's willing to go, as he has said in the case of international law, as far as he's concerned, it's worth nothing. It doesn't apply to him. And I think it's true also for domestic law as well. He doesn't
normal,
abide
yes.
by anything.
Yes, it's normal. This is the direction he's heading. Anyway, since the rise of Hitler to power, we have not seen any leader who has attacked or threatened to attack in the same time 5, 6, 7, 8 countries. I don't remember exactly. I have lost the count. Anyway, let us hope that the situation will ameliorate and your people will resist, because also it is not a purely domestic question. I suppose that what we are seeing now, it's an effort to solve the problems of the ruling classes by openly authoritarian or even neo-fascist regimes. So I think there is quite an interaction between what is happening in the periphery of the world, in the so-called south, etc., and to the center. And not only to the south, also to Greenland, which up to some days ago it was a part of the West. And now we see that it is a candidate to a US invasion. But let us go to Syria, first of all, because, you know, we had plenty of propaganda against Assad before he fails. Now we hear too little about what is going on there. What we have heard that this was a terrible dictatorship, torturing opponents and things like that, but we don't hear very much what has replaced this regime. What is your information? I know that you have enough information about Syria, or at least more than most of us.
The enemies of the United States are invariably portrayed in the West, in general, as ruthless, bloodthirsty tyrants and all of this sort of thing. I can tell you that some of that can be considered true. I'm talking in this case about Bashar al-Assad, the deposed leader of Syria. Some of it is true, but it's true of necessity because he actually was quite popular among his people. I've spoken to Syrians all over Syria, and they considered him to be a protector of Syria and to enable all the different confessional groups and societies in Syria to live in relative equality. And there were many things that made him popular. Now, the only way to stay in power, though, was to resist the attempts by the United States especially, but Israel also and Turkey also, to overthrow the government. And when you have to resist in that sense, the overthrow of your own government, you have to take sometimes extreme measures and have a police state to make sure that you stop before it becomes advanced any attempts to overthrow your government. So this is the condition of the Assad government that preceded the current government. So I would take with a grain of salt all the lies that were told, and there were many, many lies that were told. I have written about the fake videos and all this sort of thing that were portrayed in the West as real when they were manufactured, fake blood even. And I know the documentarian doctor Saleha Ahsan in the UK, who taught the white helmets to use fake blood and other ways of making movies. I know who she was and how she did it. She didn't necessarily do it for that purpose, but she did teach them. So I take with a grain of salt all the stories about Bashar al-Assad. As far as the current regime is concerned, it is the direct product of the takfiri mercenaries who were recruited by the Gulf states and the United States and others to go in and become the proxy military force or army, if you will, against the government of Syria before, and eventually they won, as we know. And they won because the sanctions. Let's remember that Syria during Assad's time was occupied by three powers: by Israel, the territory was occupied by Israel, Turkey, and the United States, amounting to perhaps half of Syrian territory altogether. And the most severe sanctions in all of the sanction regimes against Russia and Iran and so forth, the most severe ones were in Syria, preventing commerce and development and all this sort of thing. So basically what happened was that Syria was hollowed out from the inside. It was empty. It had no economy. It had, and half of the population became refugees to other parts of the world. So in this case, finally, after waiting quietly for a number of years, the Takfiri mercenaries of the United States and the other forces were able, by subterfuge and by having the right equipment and intelligence and so forth, to overthrow very quickly
but it seems they just walked to Damascus. I mean, you know, if you take a car from the northern Syria to go to the capital, you spend the same time they spend to advance and to, well, this is hard to explain, by the way, and there
no, it's not so hard. It's not so hard to explain because at that time, the wage of the devalued currency of Syria, the lira, meant that the average soldier was getting $7 a month.
But excuse me, there is much talk those last years about the BRICS, about the global South, about the global majority, about the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, many such schemes and much talk. They could not help a middle country like Syria, all of them. I mean,
they could not. The BRICS was not that active, except among the larger members of the BRICS. It didn't have that. There was some effect on Syria. It was better than nothing, but it wasn't very much at all. So Syria was in a terrible situation, and there's no doubt that a lot of Syrian officers in the high ranks finally said, yes, I love my country and I want to be loyal to the government, but I can't. I have to think of my family and I have to think of my future. And I'm being offered $50,000 or $100,000 to betray my government. And my government is going to fall anyway. Why don't I accept it? You know, it's this kind of thing that was going on. And it's not only that. There were also electronic means of deceiving the troops. There was an electronic means, kind of like messaging on cell phones, but there was a means of disseminating orders to the troops and to the military in general, and that was hacked. It was they got into it and they prevented the leadership from communicating with the troops, and they put in false information also on the same network. So there was a lot of deception that went on. We've seen that kind of deception, for example, in Iran with both last June and in January. Iran was able to overcome that, but it wasn't necessarily going to come out that way. And in the case of Syria was simply didn't have the means to overcome that sort of thing. It was deception, it was lack of equipment, it was demoralization, and all of this.
You believe the Israelis had organized this deception because they seem to be the number one now in new electronic technologies.
Yes, but they had a surprise in Iran, for example, when Iran was able to shut down the Starlink connection, which destroyed their communication, the Israeli installed communication system that they had there to communicate with their activists. So, so it works both ways. But of course, Syria had nothing like what the means that Iran has. It's a smaller nation, and its abilities were severely compromised.
Anyway, this as far as the past is concerned. Now Assad is in Moscow. He has remained silent all this time. No news from him. Now, what is the situation now?
The situation now is that these Takfiri mercenaries who terrorized Syria for such a long time, and they did things like they burnt alive people and put them in cages and brought them through the streets and tortured them, and there were even videos available online. They didn't stay online because they were removed, but of them just cutting off heads. And there's one that was actually of Ahmed al-Shara holding the head of one of the victims where he cut the head off. You know, it's on.
You mean the president himself?
Yes. And that's part of the reason that the United States put a $50 million reward for his capture. But that's gone now. Of course, he's legitimate now. I'm trying to remember, this was in the spring, maybe late winter of last year. Some of these mercenaries, because, I mean, let's face it, even Ahmed al-Shara doesn't control these mercenaries. They do what they want. And many of them went on a killing spree along the coast of Syria, the Mediterranean coast of Syria, and slaughtered probably tens of thousands of Alawite, mainly Alawite, also Shia and Christian, but mainly Alawite, whom they consider apostates and so forth. And many of the ones who weren't killed ran into the woods and tried to hide. And they had no food and no hygiene, and it was cold and so forth. And many of them ended up, I think between 10 and 20,000 ended up on the other side of the border in Lebanon as well. And I know where it's in northeastern Lebanon. And and they so I actually my nonprofit contributed a total of $25,000 to Mother Agnes Mariam of the Cross, who brought relief supplies.
You mean the Red Cross?
No, not the Red Cross. She was Catholic. She brought relief supplies, and nothing was supplied by the Red Cross. The Red Cross, her effort was the only effort through the Catholic Church that was brought to that area. And what she did was she went to the Kurds. She went to the Kurds, and the Kurds said, yes, we will help our Alawite brothers and sisters, and they provided a lot
Excuse
of
me,
the.
Greece
Yeah.
or Cyprus or the Orthodox Church, did they help anything?
I don't know if they did. It was through Mother Agnes, because Mother Agnes's efforts were the only efforts that were made at that time.
I'm afraid they did not, but I'm not certain.
Yeah, but I know that the Orthodox Church and other churches were helpful with the refugees after they got into Lebanon. Okay, but delivering the supplies into Syria, I know in terms of massive efforts to reach those, it was Mother Agnes who did it, and she did it by going to the Kurds and getting their agreement to do to offer the supplies, because they have lots of wheat and other relief supplies that they could bring to that. But she didn't have the means of transportation, and our funds helped to supply the means of transportation and the petrol and this sort of thing that was used. And she did that once, and then she said, let me see, what was that? No, we first sent her 5,000 to do that. And then she said afterwards, we can do so much more if we have the money. So I asked our nonprofit for a $20,000 grant, and it was approved, and we sent it to her. But in that case, she went and got the supplies again to help. And it was essentially taken away by Ahmed al-Shara. He said, we will deliver the supplies. And of course.
So Ahmed al-Shara, he's organizing a genocide, but nobody is speaking very loudly about this.
Exactly. Why? Because nobody cares about them. And they don't have a big Alawite lobby in Washington to pressure the members of Congress there. There's nobody saying anything.
But it seems the United States and the European Union are more or less supporting this jihadist regime in Syria.
That's correct, because they're serving the objectives of the West, of the imperialist powers, if you like,
including Israel. Yes,
including Israel.
Now, there is a question, because it seems that during the last days, the Kurds also have received quite a beating. I don't know how decisive is their defeat, but it seems that they have lost a great part of what they were occupying. What is the situation there? What do you know?
Yes. Well, as you know, the Kurds got nearly all of their equipment and training and whatever they needed in order to mount a resistance and to do military activities through the United States, to some extent also Israel, but Israel and the United States in this case are basically the same entity. And the United States, the objective originally with supporting the Kurds was to put pressure on Assad and the Assad government. Well, the Assad government is gone. The United States doesn't care very much about the Kurds anymore. They're withdrawing their support of the Kurds. I'm sure that very soon the U.S. military that has been in occupying eastern Syria for such a long time, I think you'll see them leave. And the Kurds, in the past, the Kurds were divided into, well, in many ways, but the main thing was that the leadership of the Kurds, the SDF, were immigrants, Kurdish immigrants who came from Turkey mainly. Some from Iraq as well. But the Syrian Kurds had a different way of thinking about this. Many of them were, in effect, loyal to the Syrian government. And they realized that the United States was using them for a certain period of time and that they couldn't count on the United States for a long time. And so they opened a channel, and they actually came to several times, actually. They met with Assad in Damascus in order to work something out. And in the case of, what's the name of the town? Ain al-Arab? Anyway, in northern Syria, the Kurds, the Turks, were sending in at one point and arming and helping their proxies, the terrorist groups, the Al-Qaeda groups, to take that town. And at that point, Assad
Company, you mean?
Sorry?
Company, you mean? The town. Company.
No. It was another one.
Anyway, Afrin.
Yes, that's it. Yes, that's one of the names. There's another name for it, but yes, that's it. And and at that time, the Syrian army offered to the Kurds in Afrin to come and defend them, and the Kurds in Afrin said, "Yes, welcome. We welcome you." But the Kurds in the rest of Syria, the leadership of the Kurds, said no. But never mind. They went anyway, but they were too late. By about 24 hours, by that time, the invasion of Afrin had already happened. But anyway, there was this relationship between the Syrian Kurds and the central government. And if they had allied with the central government, they might not be in this situation that they're in now, because this is going to be a big problem for them. The United States is going to turn their back on the Kurds.
But it seems there are some rumors that there is a divergence between United States and Israel. Even the Israeli ambassador to Ankara has denied a report that he agreed with the attack on Kurds. So what do you think? Does really Israel has a different position on that?
It's hard to say. After all, the position among the Israeli leadership is not always in agreement with each other. But in general, as we know, Israel has a lot of strong ties to the Kurds in Iraq, who are more numerous and more powerful than the ones that are in Syria. And therefore, I would imagine that they prefer to provide support for the Kurds in Syria as well. But let's face it, the marriage between Netanyahu and Trump also is not perfect. Netanyahu and the Israeli government has not been supportive of the direction in which Trump is going in Gaza, because what they want to do is they want to control Gaza. They don't want the United States to control Gaza. And what they finally decided was, let the United States go ahead with this. They're going to fail, and then we'll pick up the pieces and complete the genocide. This was their attitude, at least maybe 2 months ago or 6 weeks ago or something. So I don't know.
That reflects also contradictions inside the worldwide Judaism, because the big heads of Jews in the world understand that Netanyahu is going too far, and he's putting in risk themselves also. I suppose. I mean, it's a theory, of course. We cannot know. But...
Well, I mean, there's undoubtedly some of that. But there's a more radical direction in which it's going, which is that more and more of the Jews are saying that they think that the whole idea of of Zionism is they're questioning the idea of Zionism. Even Noam Chomsky recently said that he thinks that the Zionist state of Israel should be dissolved. He never said that. So that goes far beyond what he used to think.
No, yes, but I was speaking about the leaders of
Yes.
world Zionism, not so much, because there is much disagreement also from many Jews around the world, especially in the United States, who do not want to identify themselves with those genocidal policies. But I'm speaking about the big names, those who are
Yes.
essentially. I don't believe that Trump can adopt a different position from Netanyahu if he is not supported by a serious fraction inside the lobby. I mean, I don't think any American president now has such a force. So.
Well, Trump is not a good politician, let's put it that way. That is to say that his ego does not permit him to take too much direction. He'll flatter Miriam Edelson, he'll flatter Netanyahu and all this sort of thing, but he wants his way. He always wants his way. And he will give a little bit, especially to Netanyahu and to the Zionists, the American Zionists and the Israeli Zionists. He will give a lot to them. But when he really wants something, he's going to kind of make it necessary for them to step aside a little bit and give him his way. And that's kind of what's happening now with the Board of Peace and the administration of Gaza, that sort of thing. But I think still that in the current circumstance, Netanyahu and his government and whatever allies they have within the Israeli hierarchy, they're inclined to let it play out, and because they don't think that in the long run any of this is going to work, and they'll get their way in the end. If not, I would be concerned about Trump's health, to tell you the truth.
Yes. But anyway, Trump's health. There is J.D. Vance. Do you think he will be better?
J.D. Vance is not a Zionist, and he has not cultivated Zionist connections very much. So he's really an unknown quantity at this time because he's living in the shadow of Trump. So it's hard to say.
Once somebody, when Musk had an argument with Netanyahu, somebody said that probably Musk is the white Anglo-Saxon fascism against the Jewish fascism. And so there is some difference, among them always there is such differences.
Well, in the case of Vance, he is part of the danger that Trump is facing. I mean, physical danger. Because if Trump ends up having Zionist enemies, then they may see Vance as a viable alternative to Trump, and do whatever is necessary in order to force him to do their will. So I don't know. I mean, that's speculation on my part.
So yes, it's a speculation, but which reflects it seems to reflect a feeling that they are all powerful inside the United States and they can dictate all events, which is by itself terrible.
Yeah, I mean they're able to compromise the Constitution of the United States, which generally speaking in our history has never been compromised as much as it is now.
There will be elections next time, you think? Or they will abolish them?
People are wondering. We might be at the stage of the Roman Republic transitioning to the Roman Empire.
Yes, I'm not sure. I know much better the history of the entre-les-deux-guerres, the intra-war period.
Yeah.
And that this does not make me feel much better anyway. So you are not certain what is happening between, you mean about between America, Turkey, and Israel about the Kurds. You are not sure what is the real Israeli position. This is what I understood.
Well, not so much the courts. The courts are, of course, very conservative right now, and they're inclined, when possible, to give Trump the benefit of the doubt. But I sense that the American Civil Liberties Union and other legal groups that want to test, want the constitutionality of what Trump is doing, they're inclined to say this is not a good time to take it to the court, because the court is liable to give a ruling that is not what we would like.
You're right. We had the same problem in Greece with different, more or less judges are reflecting the correlation of forces into society and the political system. So if you insist, maybe you are right, but if you insist without the political conditions necessary, you risk to have decisions against democratic rights, against the Constitution and things like that. Who knows? Anyway, I think really Kurds are in a very difficult position in Syria. I mean, I don't see how they will survive, under which conditions they will survive, what they will do. But tell me something. What has happened with Iran? Because there are some people who say that Trump listened to Netanyahu, and this was the reason he did not attack. Do you believe such a thing?
That he did not attack this time in January. And that was part of it, but not all of it. Certainly Netanyahu and his advisors, his military advisors, were looking back to June, when after 12 days, Netanyahu was told that and he was told not only by his own military advisors, but by the United States as well, that they had only 2 days left of missiles, anti-aircraft missiles. And after 2 days, it would be finished. So they suggested that Trump should offer a ceasefire to Iran, and Iran accepted. And so the destruction which was done to Israel was really very disastrous for them. For example, the military and Mossad headquarters that were demolished in the middle of a very concentrated area of apartment buildings and things like that, and other types of destruction that were done, and the way Iran was able to hit the air bases. Nevatim air base, for example, was hit multiple times with missiles that cannot be stopped, the hypersonic missiles that nothing can shoot down. So Netanyahu apparently told the United States, we're not ready. We're not ready for this. And that was part of the reason that the United States backed off. But the other reason that they backed off was that the initial, I don't know what to call it, strike or sabotage in Iran, the efforts that were made at the beginning were not very successful. They were destructive, and there was a substantial
You mean the effort to provoke an internal, a serious crisis of the regime?
Exactly. And the regime recovered very quickly, especially the loss of the Starlink system, which was supposed to be there was supposed to be no way to overcome that because it's not like the usual social media and this kind of thing. But when Starlink went dark, the collaborators in Iran had no way of communicating with each other, had no way of getting direction from those who were directing from outside, MI6 and the CIA and so forth. And so it was clearly falling apart. And I think that had to be a large part of why the United States decided not to go in.
Yeah. Paul, you have been one of the, for a long time, one of the pioneers of the pro-Palestine solidarity movement, pro-Arab solidarity movement. How do you think now, is this movement existing or it has evaporated? Because we have seen that after the so-called ceasefire in Gaza, which Trump engineered, and all those things, the genocide itself is going on, but slowly, and in the same time, there's no much interest in the mass media there's not so much public pressure. What is going on? How is this movement in the United States?
Well, among interested parties, those who care about it in the United States, and I have to say, it has grown enormously since, let's say, since the first days of the boats to Gaza, for example, in 2008, and even before that. It was very small. I was part of a very small movement at that time. But that's not true anymore. I mean, there are movements everywhere. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. Our movement of solidarity with Palestinians was almost, except for Palestinian organizations themselves, but non-Palestinians being in solidarity with Palestinians, I think we were the only ones in the Bay Area or very close to it. Nowadays, I live in a suburb or a small community, Richmond, California. Richmond has its own organization. And next to us, El Cerrito and Albany, also small communities, they have their own organization. And Berkeley has it, and Oakland. There are organizations of pro-Palestinian solidarity movements in all of these places. It has grown tremendously. But it's very far from being anything like a majority of the US population that's like this. It may be the case.
It seems the global public opinion's pressure was enough to provoke this Trump ceasefire initiative. I doubt that without it we would have it.
Yeah, that's definitely a large part of it. But I would say that a bigger part, or at least a very important part of it, is the change in the point of view of the public, the wider public, towards Israel. Right now, the extent of the public that views Palestinians in a positive light has, for the first time in history in the United States, exceeded those who view Israel as in a popular life. It's only 1% difference, but that's huge for the Palestinians.
And I think those who see friendly Palestinians, they look to Israel as not just a negative factor, but as a criminal factor, which is even worse. It has the political capital of Israel has been destroyed somehow.
Yes, unfortunately, that doesn't translate into political power in the United States, because if the Congress is in the hands of the Israel lobby, and if a member of Congress, if 100% of the constituents in a particular district are against Israel and for Palestine, nevertheless, that member of Congress will vote with Israel, because they are controlled by the Israel lobby, which has the ability, when the next election comes around, it has the ability to say, okay, we're going to run an opponent against you, and that opponent will be the candidate from your party, not you. And they have the power to do that.
This is, Paul, what you are saying is the most simple way, because we have also the Epstein lists and things like that. I mean, they can easily get out. But still, the mayor of New York has said that he was elected because of the Gaza slaughter. What do you think about it?
I think that was a large part of the reason. There were many other reasons, which are specific to New York and the economy and the administration of New York itself. But certainly that had a large part of it. And it wasn't just the non-Jews who were critical of genocide in Gaza. It was a lot of the Jews. The Jews in New York tend to be more aware than Jews in some other parts of the country, although that's also true where I live, that there are a lot more Jews who are aware. And so that's a large part of it. I wouldn't generalize from the election of the mayor of New York I wouldn't generalize very widely, because there are large parts of the country who know nothing about this, and they've come from very conservative areas, and there are perhaps, I don't know, at least 1 million, maybe several million Christian Zionists who support Israel no matter what, and they are waiting for Israel to do the job and eliminate the Palestinians and become and fulfill the Bible prophecy and all this kind of thing, you know. So you can't generalize from what's happening in New York, but nevertheless, it's a change.
Yeah. All right, thank you, Paul. Can you give me your general, how to say, and we end at this point, your general prediction about what is going to happen? Of course, I know that this is a little bit difficult, but what do you see as a perspective for the Middle East, or Western Asia, as is more correct to call it?
I think that ultimately the Palestinians will prevail. And the reason I say that, I'm talking, of course, that specific item, but that's symptomatic of the rest of West Asia as well, because it is the big issue in all of West Asia is Zionism and the Zionist project. So, and I think it's failing. It's failing not because the Palestinians are winning or even their allies. It's failing because the Zionists are leaving. The state of Israel has lost the same amount of population as Gaza has lost. Gaza, I estimate, has lost at least 500,000 people. maybe not killed with bombs, but killed by disease and starvation and so forth. And the same proportion of the population in Israel, the Jewish population, also has left. Why? Because they were lured there by a beautiful life and the sun and subsidized government, and they're not getting it. And they're willing to put up with it for a month or two, or maybe a little bit longer, but they're not willing to put up with it for 2 years. And they're hated everywhere in the world now. And they didn't sign up for this. So they are getting out. And Netanyahu has closed the airports and the borders, and to try to prevent them from leaving, but they go to the south and they go into Egypt, and they fly out from El Arish, and
it's a problem for us because they tend to occupy Cyprus, and they buy
yes,
a lot of Greek
exactly.
exploiting the crisis and the fall of prices, and it's becoming a problem also in Cyprus and Greece.
Yeah, Israel is not a happy place for Israelis who live there. And the soldiers, there are thousands of soldiers who've been casualties. It's way beyond what they report. Casualties not only by death, but also by permanent disability.
I believe anyway the kind of war, I mean of massacres they have perpetrated, is distorting even what human characteristics had remained in the Israeli population. This is a policy which is creating monsters.
Exactly. And it's eating Israel from the inside out. And so we have to take that into account when we look at the equation, the scale between the Palestinians and the Israelis. The Palestinians will never give up. And I saw a question online about how many of Hamas are still alive. Are you kidding me? Their recruitment has gone through the roof. There are so many Palestinians who want to be part of Hamas, especially from Gaza. When you have lost 90% of your extended family, then if you're left alone there, what do you want to do with your life when you have few options? Well, you say, I want to die, and I want to die for my country, and I want to die killing these monsters who are coming after us. So they go to Hamas and say, I want to go and be part of your resistance. So the Hamas recruitment is bigger. Hamas is bigger now than it ever was at the beginning of this October 7th.
That's extraordinary, yes. And you think they are fully controlling the much of the enclave? What is going on in the
controlling? No.
Controlling, but anyway, they are present.
Yes. Yeah, they're present. They can continue to deliver credible resistance. But right now, they prefer not to, because by doing so, they are showing to Trump that they can be cooperative, and the Israelis are showing that they're not particularly cooperative. So they prefer it this way. I interpret their calculation in this way.
Thank you very much, Paul, for our discussion. You helped us with all those information you shared with us and with our viewers. And I hope in the future we will have better news from both the United States and the other. Well, I'm not very certain, because I think we will wait a lot of time before a serious resistance will be organized against the forces which are threatening our civilization. Thank you very much, and I hope we will
Thank
speak.
you, Dimitri.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you, Dimitri. It's a pleasure to talk to you.